You've heard me say it, all disease begins in the gut. And so many of the foods we've been taught are part of a healthy diet, actually causing us to experience weight gain, uncomfortable digestion, brain fog, and other serious health issues. Because the truth is, many so-called healthy foods are actually loaded with sugar, unhealthy fats, GMOs, and worst of all, lectins. So today, I'm going to shed light on some of these gut-wrecking foods and why they should be avoided entirely. And no, I'm not going to tell you to write off every delicious food you've ever known and loved. In fact, when it comes to a lectin-free diet, there's absolutely no shortage of flavor or variety. There are plenty of delicious foods you can still enjoy guilt-free, and I'll share many of these with you today as well. But first, a quick reminder. What's a lectin anyway? Because understanding exactly why you're avoiding certain foods makes all the difference when it comes to finding success on the program. So first, the simple answer. Lectins are proteins found in plants. And these particular proteins help the plant ward off potential predators like insects, animals, and yes, humans. You see, plants were here first, and they really had it good before animals arrived. Nobody wanted to eat them. And when you consume lectins, they bind to the sugar residue on the outside of your cell membranes, similar to how barnacles cling to a boat. These barnacles can leave you feeling straight up lousy and eventually cause some serious health damage, which is why it's so important to avoid lectins. The good news is, by learning to decipher which foods work for you and not against you, you can transform your health. So let's talk about some of the foods you can find on my yes/no list. First things first, not all vegetables are lectin heavy. In fact, dark leafy greens like lettuces and beet greens, cruciferous veggies like broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower, as well as mushrooms, leeks, and onions are some of the absolute best foods for you. And I encourage you to fill up on these foods each and every day. But other plant foods, like beans, legumes, and nightshade vegetables, are loaded with lectins and should be avoided whenever possible. In fact, nightshades are some of the worst foods for you on the planet, and they include some pretty popular veggies like bell peppers, eggplant, and yes, everybody's favorite, the tomato. Because while tomatoes may seem harmless, foods in the nightshade family contain some of the highest concentration of lectins. And what's worse is they also contain another natural pesticide called glycoalkaloids, which attack your cell membranes. It's the reason why nightshades have been thought to contribute to digestive discomfort and other health issues. So by avoiding foods like beans, legumes, and nightshades, you'll also be supporting your health for years to come. But I get it. For some, this may be really hard to do. So, if you absolutely must have these foods, you can do so by preparing them very carefully. This means first removing any and all skin and seeds. This is where most of those pesky lectins are hiding. Then you'll need to make sure you cook them using a pressure cooker, a cooking device that can reach really high temperatures and actually destroy most of the lectin content. Now, it won't get rid of the lectins entirely, but it will help to reduce them and make these foods slightly safer to eat. Okay, let's move on to our next lectin offender, grains. Although they may be delicious, most grains are just overflowing with lectins. So it's really best to nix them from your diet completely. This means steering clear of all traditional cereals, rice, pasta, and bread. Now I know, this is definitely not easy for most people to do, but rest assured, there are still two grains that are really great for your health, millet and sorghum. And they both work wonderfully as replacements for traditional grains in all sorts of lectin-free bread, dessert, and breakfast recipes. And no, you can't just pressure cook your grains, especially wheat and oats. I wish it took care of the lectin content, but I'm afraid it doesn't. Next up, nuts. Now, here's the deal with nuts. Not all nuts are created equal. In fact, some nuts aren't nuts at all. Some nuts, like cashews, are actually seeds, and they're full of lectins. And peanuts are really legumes, so you've got to stay far away. But real nuts, like walnuts, macadamia nuts, Brazil nuts, and pistachios, are wonderful for your health. They're packed with healthy fats and beneficial fiber, and can be a great source of protein. Okay, so what about fruit? Well, here's the thing. While most fruit may not be loaded with lectins, fruit contains another health wrecker, sugar. More specifically, fructose, a naturally occurring type of sugar. But whether it's fructose, glucose, or sucrose, sugar is sugar, plain and simple. And it's a huge contributing factor to why obesity is such a prevalent issue in this country. Because fruit was never meant to be consumed year-round. Back in the day, sweet flavors were only around during summer and fall. And ripe fruit tells the body to store fat for the winter. But now, due to modern agriculture and food storage advancement, you can get fresh fruit whenever you want it, regardless of the actual season. It's like we're living in an endless summer. Fruit, sweet treats, and sugar is available around the clock. Factor all this in, and it's easy to see why when it comes to eating fruit, our health pays the price. But there's good news. Not all fruit is created equal, and some fruit, when eaten in moderation and when only in season, can still be pretty good for us. Take berries, for example. Most berries, like raspberries and blueberries, have much less sugar than other fruits. Plus, they're full of good-for-you polyphenols. Green banana is also an excellent choice, as it has very little sugar and tons of gut-healthy resistant starches. So, if you're really missing fruit, pick up some green bananas and toss them in a smoothie, or even use them to make healthy pancakes. Just make sure you toss them before they ripen and turn yellow. Fully ripe bananas are definite sugar bombs. And last but definitely not least, the avocado. It's the one fruit you don't have to eat in moderation. In fact, I eat a ripe avocado just about every day, and I encourage you to do the same. Avocados hardly have any sugar, even when fully ripe. Plus, they contain the perfect blend of healthy fats and soluble fiber to keep your gut bugs happy. So, when it comes to fruit, remember this. Fruit is nature's candy, and it's meant to be eaten only in moderation and only when in season. All right, let's move on to dairy. Now, you've probably been told your whole life that dairy is great for your health, especially when it comes to your bones, your brain, and your heart. But if you ask me, it's a bunch of baloney. You see, most American cow milk products contain a protein called casein A1. This pesky protein has been tied to numerous digestive and immune problems, including the infamous leaky gut. In fact, many people who think they're lactose intolerant are actually reacting to the casein A1, not the lactose. So does this mean you can't ever have yogurt, cheese, or cream in your coffee again? Fortunately, no. You don't have to give up completely on dairy. You might just have to pick the right dairy. Dairy that doesn't have casein A1. One of my favorites is buffalo milk, which is used to make buffalo mozzarella in Italy. These days there's a great brand right here in the US called Boof, which comes from grass-fed buffalo. If that's not your thing, there's always sheep and goat's milk products, which are available in most well-stocked grocery stores. And if you're super attached to the taste of cow's milk, I've got good news. There's a product called A2 milk that doesn't have the casein A1 protein. It's closer to the cow's milk in Southern Europe, or the milk that our ancestors drank. And if you want to avoid animal products entirely, coconut milk is your best option. You can easily find coconut milk, yogurt, and even ice cream in stores today. Okay, so what about meat? Well, it turns out we really are what we eat. And the animals we eat, we are what they eat too. So when we consume animal products, the nutrients in the plants the animal ate pass into our bodies and become assimilated into our cells as well. The issue is, today almost all farm-raised animals are fed mostly grains, corn, and soybeans. That's right, lectins. On top of that, there's tons of research out there showing that high animal protein diets are actually linked to weight gain and shorter lifespans. So the fact of the matter is, your ideal diet should be mostly plant-based, but you can enjoy animal protein in small amounts as long as you choose the right kind. This means knowing how to decipher food labels and choosing lectin-free meats. But they don't make it easy. There are tons of misleading labels used to sell meat products. You know, terms like free range, 100% natural, and farm fresh. But really, all of those animals, even the ones labeled as organic or so-called grass-fed or free range, still contain troublesome lectins because they too are fed soy and corn. So here's what you need to know. Choose only products with labels that read pasture-raised and 100% grass-fed and finished. When buying poultry products, pasture-raised works great. But if we're in the market for other kinds of meat like beef, we need to make sure the product has both labels. And remember, even then, meat should only be consumed in moderation. So make sure you don't consume more than 4 ounces in a given day. Instead, try to rely mostly on greens and lectin-free veggies. And for a full list of all my yes and no foods, click the link down in the description. You'll find it nearly impossible to go astray from such a diverse selection of delicious foods. Plus, once you've kicked all the lectins out of your life, you'll likely never look back.